Morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's discussion about the global visitor economy and recovering from a catastrophic year that 2020 was, but 2021 has already proven at the beginning to be a challenge as well. So it will hopefully be an interesting conversation today about the next year ahead and how we see recovery developing over the next 12 months and the perspectives on the next couple of years. My name's Steve Gardner-Collins and I'm Director and Chair of Visit Gloucestershire, and I'm also Sales Director of a hotel group called the Hatton Collection. And I'm joined today by Rene, who's from Norway, and he's going to introduce himself, and then we're going to have a discussion around the visitor economy. And then if you've got any questions, feel free to ask those questions from your end, and then they'll pop up and we'll get those answered for you. So over to you, Rene, for an intro, and then we'll have a chat.
Thank you, Steve. A little correction in very beginning. I'm from Finland.
Finland. Oh, did I say Norway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. It's thank you for having me here, and thank you for invitation. My history in the business starts from 91 as a safari guide in local safari company here in Lapland, and then following the 22 years entrepreneurship in the company called Lapland Safaris, DMC and nature-based activity company. Nowadays, I'm leading the project, cross-border project, including the areas of Northern Norway, Swedish Lapland and Finnish Lapland. And we have altogether 120 companies, tourist companies involved. And in this project, the focus is to collaborate cross-borderly, develop that, but also do marketing for area and develop the accessibility and competence development in companies and regions. And
so you're a busy man as well.
Yeah.
And that's where my confusion came in. The project that you're involved with covers a much wider regional area, doesn't it? So
yeah,
you get some perspectives on visitor economy and, in a sense, various levels of different planning for recovery across that area, given some of the conversations around how different countries will treat recovery very differently. Is there any kind of early indications of perhaps what your recovery would be and how that versus to then that 120 membership maybe?
Well, as you can imagine, the collapse, the catastrophe has really hit to the whole area similar way in Norway, Swedish Lapland and Finnish Lapland. And we have already seen quite many bankruptcies already in early in last summer. But now there is different procedures going on depending the country. As you have seen, the strategies in Nordics countries has been different. Norway and Finland, we follow quite same strategy. At the same time, Swedish Lapland or Sweden has not closed the borders at all, and this has helped them a bit, especially in last summer and autumn time. But at the moment, we all are in the same situation. The international clientele is in big role in region, and at the moment there is no at all international travelers, as it is everywhere. And the companies are really struggling heavily, and now we are in the situation that we try to survive. It's difficult. There is no cash flow almost at all. Some units like cabins providers, cabin sales goes fairly good actually because of the domestic travelers. But then in the other end, the hotels and especially safari companies, the nature activity companies, they are struggling enormously. There is no cash flow at all. And for example, here in Finland, the government set the law that during these past months, no one can apply the bankruptcy. But this law will end in end of the January, and we are afraid then we can really see how many companies, yes, how many companies will survive before we will start to get the new clients to the area.
Yeah, we've kind of got a similar situation here in the UK where we've had a furlough scheme. I don't know if you're aware of that name, but that's where the government have been paying up to 80% of those that can't work salaries. And businesses have been able to claim back that wage and onward pay it to the member of staff. And each time the furlough scheme's been extended, there's been a little time of lag between each lockdown. So we've had 3, and some people have fallen victim to redundancy at each stage. But because the furlough scheme has been extended, there is this extension of an unknown time for many people as to the certainty in their jobs. Because the furlough schemes protected them. And also there have been grants to various business sectors and lots and lots of businesses throughout the country to help them continue behind the scenes, if you like, whilst they're closed. But it's that initial recovery process. We're not going to open our doors and be busy and fully booked on day one. And it's that ongoing support for wages and covering basic costs, fixed costs, until such time that business is back to normal. I guess that hasn't been offered in all countries in a similar sense. And if you've got, like you've just said, governments who have said nobody can be made bankrupt this month, you're kind of just delaying the inevitable for a period of time, no doubt, because they still can't trade and they can't be open. So it's a really difficult time, different perspectives in different countries, but ultimately it's the same situation, just handled differently, isn't it? I was talking yesterday to Caroline Beaton Moscatelli from Visit Finland, and she was telling me that at the moment there's very limited international marketing budget set aside from a DMO, from a visitor economy perspective at the moment, and it's really hard to start to plan a way forward. But we started to discuss probably opportunities for the summer around staycation, helping and supporting mental health and well-being. But realistically, in January, where we're sat now, how do you actually put a plan together when you thought last year, this year would be better, but we're in the same situation? So you and I had a chat before we went live, and different countries have a different perspective on visitor economy. The visitor economy from a UK perspective, and you may relate with me saying this, but it is one of our country's strongest performing sectors when we're not in the middle of a pandemic crisis. And it is crucial that we create conditions that provide settings that thrive for people that visit and people that live here and work here. And we've always recognised the importance of tourism, and obviously the furlough scheme and the grant schemes have been the government's way of trying to continue to support the important sector, because we do want it to recover and thrive again, because of its contribution to jobs and prosperity. And again, that the impacts of the pandemic have been on welfare and mental health dramatically, and tourism with adventure and outdoor and wellness and spa. It's a great opportunity for people to actually try and recover themselves individually, let alone business recovery. Individuals need to recover. When I talk about visitor economy from perhaps that perspective here in the UK, does that relate in a common ground for you where you are? It's the same perspective when we think about how important it is to people and prosperity and jobs. It applies with you as well.
Yeah, Very much so. I see the similarities in government support, but the problem in those has been that as this tourism here in Lapland, it's very much based on winter season in these northern regions, and now the government give the support based on the period which is anyway low season in region, and therefore it doesn't match really to the need and the need of the support. This is the one thing. Now they are making the new supporting package, which hopefully then fit more to the tourism sector here in North. And but generally the people are not satisfied our government actions and how they take care of this region, one of the main industry. It's a fact that we have already now about 5,000 people has lost their jobs. There is coming many bankruptcies in business field, and we are really in a catastrophic situation. But government doesn't they have not given any notice to our industry. There is examples like if in South Finland the factory has stopped working because of certain reasons, and there is 400 people has lost their jobs, and ministries has went to the city and give the speeches to the people and so on. We have lost here already 5,000 jobs, and they have not really noticed us, and this makes us a little bit irritated and even angry. And but now the coming months really show how the industry will survive, and are we discussing then only the recovery program, or do we need to start to reconstruct the whole business and delivery change, you know, and production change and so on. So we are living very exciting moments at the moment. What it comes from then to the Visit Arctic Europe project, what we are doing here as part of our activity is joint promotions with our main market areas, tour operators. And this is very important part of our project. We are in very close cooperation with tour operators, and we contribute to them our knowledge and also money that Lapland and Northern Norway and Swedish Lapland is visible in their marketing in post-COVID situation. And this existing production will be visible in the markets. And this is the one big part we concentrate now, aiming to recover from COVID.
Gosh, it's a task and a half, isn't it? And actually, when you are looking at it from perspectives as Visit Europe, there's challenges at all sides from different perspectives and different impacts that the pandemic has had on different countries. And have you, so from your perspective, in terms of those 120 organisations, a collaborative recovery is very much at the heart of that project now, because we can't do it in isolation. We need to do it together in order to factor in differences of impacts, but also recovery stages will no doubt be different for different countries. I know most are really clinging on to the kind of summer months, spring, summer. Our government have been saying spring for the last 6 months, I think. And actually, the second point of our discussion is when do you think recovery might start for you and the organizations that you work with?
Yeah, this is very good question, and I would like to say the date.
Yeah, specific, but we can't.
Yeah, the future is still a bit foggy, but in best case scenario, I would see that in June, July, people would start to travel again. But this is very optimistic prediction. But realistic, of course, we need also there good luck and that all vaccination programs in different countries go effective way through, and the governments react to the travel restrictions. Accessibility is there, and there have to be so many in so many fields success that it would happen. But we really hope that in beginning of the autumn, in September, we would be close normal. We never go back, but the new normal.
A new normal. And on that note then, yesterday there were quite a lot of placemaking discussions and the topic of new norm was being mentioned with recovery. And the question was put that are we recovering in a new norm, or are we just reopening our doors, having been closed for a year? Different people have been affected in different ways from the virus and the pandemic globally. And when you start to actually analyze your recovery and you start to think about perspectives and how each individual person may behave, examples of people now have the vaccine, some people have had the vaccine here, and already they don't think they need to wear a mask anymore. You've got environments where everybody's had the vaccine, and you know, there's a spot check that takes place, and they're questioned, why aren't you wearing a face mask? Why aren't you wearing PPE? It's like, we've all had the vaccine. People's perspectives start to change, and you get a false sense of confidence. But actually, we're still in the middle of trying to understand, if you like, what this virus will go on to look like as we go back to normal. Is it a new norm, or are we just, as a hotelier, I'm trying to put some perspectives on, I'm reopening my doors. What is our new norm if we're going to talk about a new norm? Because I just envisage kind of, we're all going back to work that day, opening the doors. And for a period of time prior to that, we'll be marketing to come and stay with us. And no doubt it will be people that we would have seen before the pandemic. So the new norms perhaps aren't factoring in, there's people's behaviours. Businesses just reopening their doors, cooking food, serving guests. But then I think there's more environmentally and climate impacts that this has really opened our eyes to that will be affected through recovery. And it's kind of a balance of what is that new norm in the end, if you take it from different perspectives. Have you had any thoughts on what recovery might look like and what a new norm might be for you?
Well, there is many perspectives, as you said. First of all, I would like to see or discuss about the final consumer point of view. And there is already many studies which shows that the responsibility and sustainability are even more important to final consumers when they dream and decide where they would like to go. And they go even more deep in that. They want to see the sustainability policies and responsibilities of even the service provider, not only the regional perspective. And then, as already UNWTO has shown their studies and how the new normal looks from final consumer's point of view, the health and safety is the priority one when client will choose their destination. All us in region and the service providers in all levels have to show what is the safety procedures and in plane, at airport, in hotels, in any sector. The other big thing which has where this COVID has influence is also the terms and conditions in reservation and in case of cancellations and payments, etc., etc. And now it seems that final consumers, they seek the solutions where they can trust that if something happened and they have to cancel, that they will get their money back. Yeah. And also that they get out from the country safety way if something happens. Yeah. What does this do for OTA actors compared to physical travel agencies, tour operators? Does people trust more? Do they trust more to the personal relationship with somebody, or do they still continue booking via internet? This is interesting to see. Okay, then I see that this final consumer point of view is very, very essential. But then there is also others. The government restrictions, how this will change, and do we all have to have the kind of vaccination passport in the future that we can travel? This is the one thing, the travel restrictions, how they influence to our business and all of us traveling. And then in post-COVID situation, I'm really not worried, but I'm aware of the situation where all destinations, and then when we go to the destination, all companies start to compete each others very heavily. And this is a kind of sad situation where we go to the bad circle. I mean,
everybody needs to recover, don't they? It's going to be like a term we use, a dog eat dog. Everyone's going to be going after everything all at the same time, and there's got to be a bit more of a cohesive, wider plan, and not mixed messages. Actually, Caroline mentioned yesterday about the Seychelles, and she talked about an announcement they made where if you've had the vaccination, they would let you go on holiday there. That may not apply to each country's terms of bookings, and it's going to confuse consumers with lots and lots of messages in the market about what you can and can't do depending on where you want to travel. And actually, part of global recovery for tourism would be to come back stronger with more coherent, collaborative thoughts and control over how we manage marketing, because it's just going to be a complete and utter free-for-all on visit wherever. And then you've also got, from a sustainability and a responsibility perspective, as you said, you've got to factor in the visitors' impacts on all those environments, whether it's they haven't had a vaccine rolled out in that country and therefore you could just take it with you and cause mayhem for those countries. Or if everybody descends on countries, all of a sudden, you're kind of rooting back to this global initiative of responsible tourists, and everyone's just going to be damaging all of the positives that we saw throughout closure and the pandemic last year. The impacts on the environment, for example, are just going to go from here to here again, and we're not going to have built back stronger at all. We're just going to default, as kind of how I felt when I first started the conversation, when I said I'm just going to open the doors, cook food, clean beds, and people will be saying again, what's new about that? So it's the wider perspectives on countries working together and regions as opposed to on an individual basis. Whilst we were talking, Rajit and Ravish have joined us. We can't see you guys. If you could come off, if you could take your cameras, turn your cameras on. I don't know if you can, but we can't hear you. If you take yourselves off mute, I'll be able to know if you can hear me. Okay, for a moment then we'll carry on, and then as and when you can join, click in. If you can take your cameras off, put them on, that would be great. And if worst case scenario, just take yourself off mute, and then I know if we can hear you or not. But yeah, those does that sit kind of comfortably with you in terms of this kind of recovery planning, because we're talking about how do you recover from a catastrophic year. And actually, I don't think we can do it in isolation. Visit Europe with its 120 organizations, that's a huge representative if you're all on the same page. But globally, messages coming out from different parts are going to become very confusing for the tourist if it really is very different in different areas. Does that echo perhaps what your feelings are on it?
Definitely, yes. The cooperation in this time and in recovery, it's most essential in my mind, and in many ways. It's stronger we are together in marketing, in developing the safety measures, and also helping the clients to find the sustainable and responsible services, etc. So this is I have always been for cooperation, but now it's more important than ever. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's certainly something that for several years prior to this, working in a collaborative partnership environment was already being recognized as a great environment to make good things happen. And the pandemic has kind of forced us into having to work together, really, because we can't all sing off different hymn sheets when we're all ultimately trying to recover responsibly and best. Ravish, I think I can hear you. Hi, we can hear you. Have you got a camera?
Yes, I was finding difficult to connect, so I'm sorry I'm a bit late to connect with you guys.
Don't worry. Thanks for joining us. Obviously, you and I have had an intro, and I've introduced myself to the viewers already.
Right.
And if I let Rene introduce himself, him and I have been talking about Finland and the Nordic countries, UK, some global perspectives, and discussions around Visit Europe. So if you introduce yourself to the room, and then we'll catch up with you and then go back to a group discussion.
Sure. Right. So my name is Ravi Sharora. I am from Pune, India. And I'm a director of a company called InVenue. We are into hospitality business. In a sense, we have F&B people. We have various verticals. We run bakeries. We run restaurants. We run institutional caterings. We run hospital caterings. We do caterings otherwise, and cafes. So all aspect of F&B hospitality is what we do in Pune from that perspective. And we've been doing this for 20 years. We operate out of a central kitchen, and we have about 400 people working for us pre-COVID. From that perspective, we are at half the strength now, and we are rebuilding now slowly and steadily from that perspective. We are self-sufficient in terms of our sales and in terms of our production. So that is how it is. And various restaurants in various locations. We have 5 restaurants, and out of that, right now, 2 are closed. 3 are operational, 1 at 80%, 1 at 50%, and 1 at 30% occupancy. That's how we've been operating from that angle. And we've been slowly now rebuilding the entire thing. So we obviously were majorly impacted with the COVID, and Pune as a city runs on IT business, runs on education, and runs on manufacturing. It doesn't have much of tourists, so it's a hardcore business city, even though closer to Mumbai, but it's a hardcore business city. And since businesses got affected majorly during COVID, so we also, everybody in Pune get affected also from that angle. So that's what Pune is from that perspective.
Great, thanks, Ravish. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah.
When did COVID start impacting in where you are?
So our business, COVID impacted straight away. The day there was a lockdown.
When was that?
22nd of March.
Okay, so similar time to us.
Yes. So the same day, everything came to a grinding halt, everything from that perspective.
Okay.
And yeah.
I'm just mapping out a bit of a timeline, which will kind of help us bring you up to date with where we got to.
Right.
So impacted in March, business closures. Have you had 1, 2, 3 lockdowns? Have you been able to open at all, like through summer or?
So the lockdown obviously opened in phases. So the retail outlet, that's the bakery business, opened up first.
Yeah.
Because the retail was opened up first, and then the restaurants opened much later in the month of October. And so there was a gap of 5 months. And in between, we also went through a second lockdown in city Pune, which was about in month of July for 15 days. So that actually had a more impact. A second lockdown always has far more impact than the first one.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Have you had a third yet?
Sorry?
Have you had a third lockdown for impact?
We nearly were into a curfew situation for the last, from 15th of December till 5th of Jan. And now they've opened up a bit from that perspective. But yes, so every lockdown has, makes situation even worse, especially if you're in F&B business.
So as an employer, Ravish, I was talking about some schemes, and there's similar government support in various countries that's been offered. Right. As an employer, were you able to support your staff through a government scheme for wages, or was that on your shoulders?
Okay, so in India, there's been no support as far as the F&B restaurant business goes. I think across the board, everybody will tell you the same story. From that angle, we've had no support. Yes, government has supported very few at the lower end of the businesses, but that is probably would be the disorganized sector. But the organized sector had to fight for itself from that angle. So we supported probably 50 to 60% of the employees whom we could support. And majority automatically, kind of left the jobs and went back to their villages and back. But they are 50% is back. So if you ask me, morally, were we able to support them? Yes, but financially, 50%, no.
Right, okay. Mm-hmm. And from a business perspective, you're supporting your staff, but your business has equally not had any support from your government?
Not at all. Our business has no support, zero.
Okay. So that kind of brings us up to the last 12 months, and we've had some early discussions about reopening in 2021, and it sounds like you're at a capacity at the minute where the rest of us are kind of still in another lockdown, for example, or in a very low limited reopening. But you talked about 50 to 80% occupancy there.
Right. In terms of business, yes.
So you're at a very different stage.
Yeah. So I mean, so when we started the business in the month of October till December, there was a lot of pent-up demand. So the business is really, I mean, we became pretty optimistic as far as this goes, that as things will get better, as the vaccination comes in, as things will get better, I'm sure the businesses go. But it's not. It was more of a, kind of a bubble. The last 3 weeks, if you were to go by anything, business is really, really slow. Now, this is generally the business, end of the year. Jan, Feb, March in India is the business. If the businesses do well, because the schools, colleges, everybody is full-time, then you do well. Our business, F&B generally, caterings, everything, weddings, everything is resultant of business being good from that perspective. And business is really low in India at this point apart from certain segments, there has been report, automobile has done well, there are reports about some, but then these are, real estate has done well, but it's done in pockets. But overall, the economy is very, very sluggish. So I do feel till the second quarter is my prediction. If we have to go back to pre-COVID times, I do not see it happening before September 21.
Okay. Yeah, and seasonality wise, we had a similar conversation around July. I suppose you've got a different season time to where we are.
Right.
So where are you? Where are you at the moment? Are you in? What's the weather like?
Sorry, weather.
What's the weather like at the moment? What season are you in?
Pune weather is nice. I mean, we are looking at day temperature about 30, 32 and night temperatures around 20, 22. So Pune is outstanding. I mean, weather-wise, I mean, you want to be out dining, you want to be having good time.
Of course, yes.
So
you
Pune
almost have an
on that
opportunity,
angle.
don't you, with the weather to be
So
busier.
this was always the best time for business for us. And so that's how it is.
Mr. Arora, I am Rauno Posio from Rovaniemi, from Finnish Lapland, from the Arctic Circle.
Right.
From our best season, tourist season, is also just now going on, but definitely different circumstances.
Right.
And imagine that our weather at the moment is minus 25 degrees.
Unbelievable.
Polar opposites.
More than 50 degrees difference.
My God, it is unlivable from that perspective.
Can you imagine being minus 25, Ravish?
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. I mean,
Welcome to see in the post-COVID situation.
Somewhere in the middle of all that is the UK, weather-wise.
But you'll be surprised to know, the local tourism in India. So tourist spots like Goa, tourist spots, like some places in North, they have done brilliantly well. I mean, we've all been surprised with the kind of a response which the local tourism has got in India. You'll see flights full to Goa. You'll see flights full to certain destinations, Shimla and all these places. So it is only about time. It's only when the international market, then the hotels would do well because the business is low. But local tourism is on the move as far as the India goes. People are checking. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's right. Your tourism at the moment sounds like it's kind of a staycation market. So you're busy. Places like Goa are busy with your own local tourism market. So it's staycation models. And earlier on in the conversation, we were talking about just that, kind of realizing that certainly in 2021, and I suppose where you're in your warm season, your staycation market is what we're expecting to see in our warmer months, which will be middle of the year. And then we're kind of collectively optimistic, or hoping to be optimistic more for September, October onwards then, as you said.
That's right.
That perhaps quarter 3, 4.
Right.
But you'll be back into your spring, summer mode by then. So that should be even more to your advantage.
Yes, absolutely. So that's likely to happen with us on that perspective as the time moves on from that angle. This generally is a tourist season for the foreigners to get into our country, but pent-up local demand is moving that up. Yes, the big hotels are suffering a lot. The big brands are suffering a lot. But I do feel by, like you said, mid-segment summer season coming and things will get better.
Yeah. Have you, so then because staycation and it's busy, was there a recovery plan constructed through last year quite quickly that supported businesses kind of reopening as you are now, in the early sense of your recovery potentially starting sooner because of your seasonal differences in effect, and obviously warmer weather has suppressed the virus, so where we're going through extreme high levels of spread again, put down to the colder weather, perhaps the suppression of, because of your warmer weather, you're able to staycate and enjoy the warm weather again. I wonder at which point in a recovery plan, and this is where we were talking about, when do you start recovery? And is it like we were last summer? It was like a false sense of security, July and August, because we had this.
Sorry. Right, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, I missed the last part.
Oh, sorry. I said last summer for us, July and August, was almost a false sense of security for many, because we had lockdown 1. The globe was in a lockdown, wasn't it? And then as we reopened, we kind of went into July, August, September trading. And then we end up in November in a lockdown 2, and then now we're in a lockdown 3. And you kind of wonder, I wonder if 2021 will follow a little bit of that process, because not everybody's going to be vaccinated. And I know, reading in our media, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there is quite a fast-paced vaccine rollout where you are.
Right.
Is that
so,
correct?
Okay, I'll react to, and I picked up in bits and pieces
sorry.
Your questions, because there's something wrong with the audio. What I understand is, are you saying that the recovery in like the way the lockdown happened would be the same in coming months or not? Is that what your question is?
Correlating, with the vaccination rollout, and yours is quicker than most, I think, in terms of the numbers getting the vaccine.
So that is very interesting. See, the local demand in the country is still huge from that perspective. So the challenge has been, the government has not put money in people, unlike other countries. Government has not put money into people's pocket. So the demand is obviously, so whatever money was saved by people during lockdown. So people save a lot of money. Indians are, known to save money. They like to save a lot of money, not spend. So Indians save a lot of money during a lockdown from that angle. So that is the money which came out during the last couple of months. Now people automatically, the businesses are not doing well. Everybody is facing some cut in their salaries in this country. Everybody across the board, maybe few sectors here and there from that perspective. So unless the government doesn't put some money into people's pocket, it's always going to be a challenge to go back to that kind of a situation. So it is going to be a tough market. We don't see revival of our business in a true sense. The growth of the F&B, the employment which is going to be generated out of it, and correlated businesses in terms of, food supply chain, in terms of, the restaurants buying that. There were a lot of, support which was happening to this industry from that end. Agriculture, the supply chain, this. So there were all these are struggling. They are still struggling. People have lost a lot of money. The supply chain, the vendors, the suppliers, because most of the products had shelf life and most of the products have gone bad. So the market has become more from credit economy to cash economy today. No vendor today gives you credit over a period of time. So everything has changed from credit economy to cash economy as far as our business goes. So a lot of corrections is happening from that angle. So business will take time, but it is there. It is there for your taking, provided you are in the right, loop. You are in the right, kind of a product market. Your product is right for today's listing. So there are people who have done well on that perspective. It's a time for innovation, and it's really a time for getting your strategies right.
Yeah. So I guess from what you've just said, there's a bit of a up and a down depending on what support. If the support isn't there and cash runs out,
so second hump,
spending.
Second hump is not going to come soon.
Rene, do you echo the similarities? I'm building up towards now. When we go into recovery, what we're kind of coming to a conclusion where we are saying recovery is going to be, up and down, and it's very much based on what people have got to spend, and therefore what's going to enable the visitor economy to recover is actually a drip feed of cash.
Sorry, I missed you in between. I was there was no signal. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying to Rene, if he echoes what you're saying, but in terms of recovery, it's been a bit up and down, it sounds.
That's right.
Unless there's these injections of cash in people's pockets, particularly in 2021, we could probably all agree that that's pushing us to spend, because we've had a handout to spend it, and that's perhaps where we see visitor economy recovering, not just because of people saving, but also because we're encouraged to go out and spend by what we're given. We had a scheme called Eat Out to Help Out last summer, which was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the government paid £10 of your meal. back
Right.
to the business. So it was an incentive to go out through the summer and eat.
That's right.
Did you have
That's
anything
right.
in Finland, Rene?
No, nothing from that angle.
Nothing in India. And
Nothing.
Rene?
Yeah, well, globally in international tourism, I see here also a few factors. Of course, the potential group of clients globally are smaller from many reasons, but many millions of people has lost their jobs because of the COVID, and of course they don't travel so much. But on the other hand, this smaller group of people who are still working and every economy is fine, they really want to go to travel. And maybe this is one factor which recover the tourism in many destinations quite fast. But then again, what is the influence of this COVID to the regional brand and image? And I think that some of the destinations had got bigger hit than the others. And this might influence also. And then in the end of the day, the as I said earlier, that the final consumers now, their priorities to choose to the destinations are a bit different than earlier. The safety and healthy is the most important things, etc., etc. And but I'm sure that there is will to travel in people, because they have worked from home, they have spent 24/7 during the lockdowns at home. They really want to go and see and experience, breathe. So I think that in some destination the recovery is going to be very fast and effective, but in those destinations who has got the bigger hit in image, they might it takes longer time. And also from accessibility point of view, Mr. Arora mentioned the Goa accessibility, that it's there and recovered nicely. But here in Europe, I see that recovery in flights, the airplane business has struggled a lot, and there is not so many. Well, some of the flight companies has even bankruptcies. So the accessibility recovery will take 2-3 years at least.
Yeah, the infrastructure around visitor economy, when we talk about hotels that have closed, restaurants no more, the impacts on our high streets, and retail has gone bankrupt in different shop perspectives. So lots of this needs to be considered in order to be able to recover from the impacts of the virus. And it's all got to work together. And actually I put together a piece last night in lieu of the meeting that basically said that everybody in tourism needs to work together, and all stakeholders really need to be able to develop and achieve and input on what the vision and the future of visitor economy actually means for them and for everybody. We've mentioned about a global initiative and regional and national perspectives, and it does come down to those economic strategies and how we all work together collaboratively on a kind of shared framework of recovery, really. And then by working together, I think we have the best chances of creating an economic success in the future, because I think the years ahead it's not just going to be recovery in 21. If this continues in 21, then we're all going to start talking about 22. We don't know yet what the vaccine does in its entirety, its weaknesses, these new variances, and different countries are now impacted by that as well. And it's everything to play for, but also everything to lose still. So it's been a really interesting conversation to try and talk recovery. And yesterday was a lot of placemaking discussions. But I think, as businesses, we've still got our work cut out to try and understand the here and now, the rest of the year, and then work together perhaps for a longer future perspective on recovery. Is there any final thoughts from you both?
I do. COVID will not let you give you a final thought. Okay, so we will take this progressively as we go forward. But there is general optimism as far as India goes. I do see people getting more organized in their daily routine, their lives. And I do see vaccination having a very positive effect as far as India goes. For the kind of a response in India, the resistance is a bit less compared to other countries from that angle. Because see, India gets no support from the government. I mean, basically. So everybody wants to be on the job. They all want to work. They all want to sustain their livelihood. The only way one sustains his livelihood by getting to work. So there is a very small segment of people who work from home. There's a large segment of people who have to go out and earn their livelihood. And like in agriculture segment, rural area in India, there is no COVID. I mean, in the sense, we have thousands of farmers sitting on agitation for last 4 months. There is no COVID there. I mean, from that perspective, which surprises everybody, all sane people, educated people, we are surprised with all that kind of thing. So it's just a matter of, overcoming your anxieties, overcoming our fears, and this jab will basically get rid of these fears and anxieties, what I feel, apart from COVID being there or not. I'm a COVID survivor myself. I just recovered from COVID about 10 days back. From that, it just makes me more confident now as we go forward in a true sense. So I do feel that we see a very positive 21, very, very positively 21 in times to come. Yeah, there would be some pockets where there would be challenges, some countries, some sections. But I guess as far as India goes, I think I do see great recovery for India, but only in second half, not before that. Not before that.
And on the other side of the globe at minus 25, how are you feeling about things? Any final thoughts at minus 25?
Yeah. Well, I am as positive as Mr. Arora that this is the year that we will, please allow me to express this way, that we kick ass to the COVID. But yes, I agree that it's the second half of 21 that the recovery starts, hopefully sooner than later.
Yes,
I think we all agree, definitely. Well, thank you both for joining me today to talk about global visitor economy and recovery. And thank you to everyone that joined us today to listen. So we'll see you all soon. Thank you.